Hello and welcome to Explain 11 and the last episode on DA-42 procedures, and that is the emergency procedures. So here we are. Heringsdorf is down here, in case you're wondering. I set us up for a flight from Heringsdorf to Hamburg, just to get us up in the air so we can do some procedures up there. Go nav GPS. I'm gonna go direct VFR 6,500 feet, and it's a nice day for flying. Clouds are higher up, so that's not a problem. And we're gonna set up for cruise at 75%. RPM is good. Coolant temperature is slightly high, which I don't really understand why it shouldn't be that. Try 65%, see if that improves it. I seem to have a problem with the coolant temperature always. So where are we going now? Sorry. Direct Hamburg. Okay, so if you look at the emergency procedures, they are divided into introduction, airplane-related G1000 warnings, airplane-related G1000 cautions, G1 system warnings, G1000 failures, abnormal engine behavior, one engine inoperative procedures, which is one of the things we'll return to often, engine start landing gears failures, failure in the electrical system, smoke and fire, other emergencies. So. But first a disclaimer, I'm not a real pilot, I'm not a CFI, I'm not a licensed anything. I'm a licensed car driver, but that doesn't apply here, I think. But so this is not for real aviation, or can't replace real training. This is just for fun in the flight simulator, so remember that. I hope you learn something. The airplane flight manual I'm using is you can find that in the links in the description. I'll do a few of these on different planes, and you can always find some sort of air flight manual or pilot operating handbook or something in the links, so and easily downloadable. But let's go into the emergency procedures. So first general section just describes that you always have to keep control on over the airplane. So it's the regular thing: aviate, navigate, communicate. Some sudden airspeed in emergencies: one engine inoperative minimum control speed, flaps up 76 knots, flaps approach 73 knots, and one engine inoperative speed for best rate of climb is 85 knots. So that's good to remember, 85 knots, best rate of climb. In an emergency you can get the guard frequency by holding the transfer button. I don't think it actually works in this one. Oh, that's not simulated. No, sorry. Oh, we gotta set up the card, so we'll switch. So hold it should book card, but it doesn't do that. So but in real G1000 it does. Airplane-related G1000 warnings, general warnings. Warning meaning non-observation of the corresponding procedure leads to an immediate or important degradation of flight safety. The warning text is displayed in red color. A warning chime tone of 1.5 seconds duration will sound and repeat without delay until the alarm is acknowledged by the crew. So one example of the warning could be left-right engine temperature. Left-right engine coolant temperature is in the upper red range, too high, above 105 knots. Which this was, so I don't know, we didn't get a warning, but check G1000 for left-right coolant level caution measures, so see if that's so it's not a problem that we have too little coolant. During climb, reduce power on affected engine by 10% or more as required, which we did. We reduced to 65%. That wasn't during the climb, but still. Increase airspeed by 10 knots as or more as required. If coolant temperature does not reach the green range within 60 seconds, reduce power on affected engine as far as possible and increase airspeed. So dive, basically. During cruise speed, reduce power on affected engine, increase airspeed. Check coolant temperature in green range. If a high coolant temperature is indicated and the left-right cool level caution message is not displayed, it can be assumed that there is no technical defect in the cooling system and the above-mentioned procedure can decrease the temperature. This might not be the case if the coolant temperature does not return to the green range. In this case, perform a precautionary landing at the nearest suitable airfield. Prepare for an engine failure in accordance with engine failures in flight procedures. If the left-right coolant level caution message is displayed, reduce power on affected engine, expect loss of coolant. And that's also engine failure in flight procedures. Prepare for that. Left-right oil temperature. Left-right oil temperature is in the upper red range, too high, above 140 centigrade. Oil temperatures above the limit of 140 centigrade can lead to loss of power due to an engine fail. Check oil pressure. If the oil pressure is outside the green range, reduce power on affected engine, expect loss of engine oil. And also prepare for engine failures in flight. If oil pressure is within the green range, reduce power on affected engine, increase airspeed. If high oil temperature is announced on the oil pressure indication within the green range, it can be assumed that there is no technical defect in the engine oil system and that the above mentioned procedures can decrease the temperature. This might not be the case if the oil temperature does not return to the green range. In this case, perform a precautionary landing on the nearest suitable airfield. Prepare for engine failures in flight procedure. Another message you can get is left-right oil pressure. Left-right engine oil pressure is in the lower red range, too low, below 1.5 bar. Oil pressure below the limit of 1.5 bar can lead to the total loss of power due to engine failure. Oil pressure below the limit of okay, so there's two differences between the difference, two occurrences between depending on which software you have installed. I have no idea what this simulates, but in one version it's below 1.5 bar and in another it's 0.9 bar. So anyway, the procedure is to reduce power on affected engine, expect loss of oil, and prepare for engine failure in flight. Left or right gearbox temp. Left or right engine gearbox temperature is in the upper range, too high, above 120 centigrade. Gearbox temperatures above the limit of 120 centigrade can lead to total loss of power due to engine failure. Reduce power on affected engine, increase airspeed. The same thing, if it doesn't work, do precautionary landing and prepare for engine failure in flight. Left-right fuel temperature. Left-right fuel temperature is in the upper red range, too high, above 60 centigrade. Fuel temperatures above the limit of 60 centigrade can lead to noticeable reduction in the high pressure pump efficiency. Reduce power on affected engine, increase airspeed. And if that doesn't work, do precautionary landing. Notice that increased fuel temperature can also occur when the fuel quantity in the main tank is low. The auxiliary tank is if the auxiliary tank is installed, the refuel temperature can be increased by transferring fuel to an auxiliary fuel tank. We don't have an auxiliary fuel tank, so that won't happen. Left or right fuel pressure. Left or right engine fuel pressure is low. Fuel quantity check. Fuel selector on affected engine check on. This is the right engine. We'll check the fuel on the right side. Fuel. And we will check that the right side engine is on. If we have fuel pumps, we will select it as on. If the left-right fuel pressure warning remains, fuel pump unaffected engine off. Fuel selector affected engine crossfeed. So right engine will put a crossfeed. You can notice there. now taking fuel from the left hand side and putting it to the right hand side. Imminent engine failure must be expected. Prepare for an engine failure in accordance with 376 engine failure in flight. So seem to return to that one a lot. Left-right alternator amps. Left-right engine alternator outputs in the upper range too high, above 70 amps. Proceed to 3 tendency high current. Left-right engine fire. Left-right engine fire. Engine fire can lead to loss of power due to engine failure as well as severe structural damage. Proceed according to the following procedures as applicable. Engine fire on ground, engine fire during takeoff, or engine fire in flight. So we're going to come to those. Notices left-right starter. Left-right engine starter is engaged. So if that's not during normal takeoff, normal startup, then we'll go to starter malfunction procedures, which is we're coming to those later. Door open. Front door and rear canopy and or baggage door is not closed and locked. Unlocked doors. Go to unlocked doors procedures. Let's see. Airplane related G1000 cautions. Left-right alternator failure. Left-right alternator failure has failed. Go to the left-right alternator failure in abnormal procedures, which we did last time. Both alternators failed. If both alternators fail at the same time, reduce all electrical equipment to a minimum. Expect battery power to last 30 minutes and land the airplane as soon as possible. Expect engine stoppage after this period. Avionics master off. So if that happens, we go avionics master off. Left-right alternator off. Landing gear down and locked pull. Emergency release here. Stall heat, pitot heat is off, all lights off. So that's the procedure if we need, if we don't have an alternator to conserve power. Actually, it's kind of bobbing around here. Maybe we should reduce power so we'll go below 151 knots. It's not very, it's slightly unstable there, so. So you remember the 151 knots is above 150 it's in stable smooth air, and below 151 is if we don't have stable air. Oops. So 151, I don't know what speed we need to maintain that. So we'll just work out, go forward to 54. To keep us pretty stable below 151. So since this area wasn't that stable, we'll reduce power so we're below 151 knots. No, not. Which of course increases time it takes to get to our airport, but only slightly. G1000 system warnings. Red X. I haven't seen those in this simulator, so on this model, the Aerobus model. If you get a red X, that means that there's a failure in that corresponding data field. Can attitude fail, airspeed fail, altitude fails, and if that happens, you revert to other means of checking those. So, for instance, if there's a vertical speed failure, then you look at altimeter to see if you're going down in speed and that sort of stuff. And if the engine instruments fail, you look at listen to the engines and look at the throttle levers and that sort of stuff. So PFD or MFD is display failure, display backup button, use button in order panel push. I don't think that's simulated here, so problem. This is interesting. 3.6 abnormal engine behavior. Full power apply. If the abnormal engine behavior sustains, go to the one engine inoperative procedures, which is in certain combinations, airplane weight, configuration, ambient conditions, speed and pilot skill, negative climb performance may result. Refer to the chapter performance for one engine inoperative performance data. In any event, the sudden application of power during one engine inoperative operation makes the control of the airplane more difficult. Below 10,000 feet, with pressure altitude, do not attempt an in-flight engine restart if the engine has been shut down for more than 2 minutes. Above 10,000 feet, pressure altitude only immediate restart is possible. So above 10,000 feet, you restart at once, and that doesn't work, you can stop. And below 10,000 feet, you will restart within 2 minutes. So, detecting the inoperative engine. One engine inoperative means the asymmetric loss of thrust, resulting in an uncommanded yaw and roll in direction of so-called dead engine. To handle the situation, it's vital to maintain a directional control by mainly under an additional aileron input. The following mnemonic can help you identify the failure in the dead foot, dead engine. This means that once directional control is re-established, the pilot can feel the control force on the foot pushing the rudder pedal on the side of the operative engine, while the foot on the side of the fail engine feels no force. So basically, I'm gonna read the next part here. Engine troubleshooting. Control. Always keep the plane under control. With respect to handling and performance, the left-hand engine pilot view is considered a critical engine. If the loss of power was due to unintentional settings of the power level, you may adjust the friction lock and continue your flight. If ECU A and ECU B caution appear simultaneous, if the indication load remains unchanged and the perceived thrust is reduced and the engine power loss level changes, of the engine is running rough. Power level will go to idle for 1 second, power level will slowly increase to 1975 RPM. If engine power shows loss during the power level increase, power level idle for 1 second, power level will slowly increase, stop prior to the former observed engine power of loss. Do not increase power past the propeller speed of 1975 RPM on the setting determined in step 4. An increase of engine power beyond this setting leads to another power loss. With this power setting, the engine can provide up to 65% of the maximum propeller speed. So, at 1975 RPM. Land at the next suitable airfield. Depending on the situation, the following attempts can be made to restore a normal engine operation. Circuit breakers, check. Reset if necessary. If normal operation is restored, continue flight and land as soon as possible. Otherwise, rotor switch swap between ECU A and B, not simulated here. If ECU A or B restores normal engine operation, then maintain the ECU setting and land as soon as possible. Otherwise, rotor switch back to on or retain ECU redundancy. If normal engine operation is restored, continue flight and land as soon as possible. Otherwise, fuel selector on affected engine crossfeed. Switching the fuel pump on the affected engine in combination with crossfeed may cause damage to high pressure pump. So we don't have fuel pump installed, so that's not a problem for us. If normal engine operation is restored during continued flight, remain with maximum allowable later in balance. Otherwise, fuel selector on affected engine on, crossfeed as required. Alternate air open, power level of affected engine, apply power as required. If normal operation is restored, continue flying and land as soon as practicable. If normal operation could not be restored by following the procedures in this section, prepare for engine securing feathering procedure and land as soon as possible. So, the engine securing feathering procedure. Shutdown and feathering of the affected engine. Affected engine, identify and verify. Engine master, affected engine off. Do not shut down the engine with a fuel selector valve, otherwise the high pressure pump can be damaged. Securing the feathering engine. Alternator, affected engine off. Fuel pump check off, and fuel selector, affected engine off. The remaining fuel tank is secured by use for remaining engine, so use the crossfeed selector.
Får jag spela?
Ja, strax. Vet du hur man sätter på tvn?
Nej.
Med knappen på sidan?
Nej.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, jag kommer. I'm just going to go and help my son to start the Xbox. I'll be right back and we'll continue by shutting down then. So sorry about that. Now I'm back. I have to go back because he wanted to play Minecraft and that's updating. So I'll have to go back in a little bit. Look at the outside view. So this is a nice plane. So on feathering and restarting of the engine in flight, if the reason for the shutdown has been ascertained, there is no indication of malfunction of the engine. Fire as far as restart can be attempted. Maximum restart altitude is 18,000 feet, 10,000 feet for immediate start, 10,000 feet or below for restart within 2 minutes. Caution, do not attempt an in-flight engine restart if the engine has been shut down for more than 2 minutes. If the engine is allowed to cool down for more than 2 minutes, a successful restart may not be possible. Maximum restart speed, max 100 knots. Stationary propeller, whichever is lower. Do not engage starter when the propeller is windmilling. Note, airspeed below 100 knots is possible to that the propeller may windmill intermittently. Therefore, care should be taken to ensure the propeller is stationary when engaged in the starter. So procedure is fuel power level on affected engine idle, fuel selector on affected engine check on, alternate air as required, alternate affected engine on, engine master on affected engine on, and starter on affected engine engage. After the engine has started, power level should be set to moderate power setting until engine temperature has reached the read range. So we'll try that actually. We'll do first the shutdown and then start up. So we'll keep it in autopilot. I'm just ready with the job. So turn the right engine off. So right engine, we'll see it starting to turn slightly, not too much. Keep this pretty nice. So slightly left rudder, you know, if it's left rudder, we know it's the right engine that's failed. Okay, engine securing procedure, affected engine identify, which is the right engine. You also see that. Engine master off, check. Alternate engine off, so right hand engine off, alternator. Fuel selector, affected engine to off. Okay, so then you have to think about the crossfeed if you want to use, and then I will put this to crossfeed when I use fuel from there. We're starting in flight, so we're about below 10,000 feet, which means we can do it's only 2 minutes. We'll reduce power. Actually, if you read the in manual for the airbag, it says between 100 and actually there's different things. In one place it says between 100 and 120, 110 to 10 and 120 knots, and another place it says 100 and between 100 and gear warning between 100 and 120. It will go with we'll try it below 100 and see if it works. So procedures is power level affected engine, idle, fuel selector check on, alternate air check on, alternator on, affected engine, engine master on, and engage. So that's not working, so we'll increase the speed to, running out of time, to about 110. More rudder to keep centered. We'll try it above 100. I started. Okay, so the FM says low 100. The Airbus manual says below between 100 and pretty much 100 and 120, depending on the way you read it. So go for between 100 and 120. We increase speed so we can go to our cruise speed. So that wasn't a big deal. Circuit breakers, we check if we need to reset those. I'm gonna actually turn back to Heringsdorf. Go Delta Alpha and Hotel. Go direct there. And we'll descend to 5,500 feet. Vertical speed. Nose down. Okay, so I'll be right back. Sorry, I wasn't done. Just keep an eye on the autopilot, see if it actually works. 76. Okay. That's restarting. Engine failure during takeoff. These are important checklist items. Seems smooth air down here, so we'll go at 65 knots. No, 65%, I mean, sorry. So engine failure during takeoff, engine failure during ground roll, if abort takeoff. Power level idle, both rudder, maintain directional control and brakes. If sufficient time is remaining, the risk of fire in event of collision with obstacles can be reduced as follows: engine master both off, fuel selector both off, and electrical master off. Engine failure after liftoff. If the landing gear is still extended and the remaining runway surface is adequate, abort the takeoff and land straight ahead. If the remaining runway surface is inadequate, decide whether to abort or to continue the takeoff. Continue takeoff. Continue takeoff is recommended if the steady rate of climb according to section 538, one engine and operative climb performance is less than 3.3%. Under certain combinations of ambient conditions such as turbulence, crosswind and wind shear, as well as pilot skill, the resulting climb performance may nevertheless be insufficient to continue takeoff successfully. Therefore, in a continued takeoff with a failed engine has to be avoided if at all possible. Anyway, what you do: power level to max, rudder maintain directional control, airspeed 85 knots, landing gear up to achieve positive rate of climb, flaps check up, inoperative engine securing according to engine securing feathering procedure, which we did before. Land as soon as possible, landing with in accordance with the procedures for landing with one engine inoperative. And you also, if you divert, you have to use the flight with one engine inoperative procedures. Engine failures in flight. Engines failure during initial climb. As a climb is flight condition which is associated with high power settings and airspeed low, always keep it below 76 knots with flaps up and 73 knots with flaps in approach. If a sudden engine failure can lead in that part of the flight, that can lead to loss of control. In this case, it's very important to reduce the asymmetry in thrust to regain directional control. So rudder maintain directional control, airspeed 85 knots. Always keep it up above 76 knots flaps up and 73 knots flap in approach. Increased power is required to of directional control has to be established. So establish minimum zero slice condition. So keep the rudder, the ball centered, and the ball is inclusive in ball. It's this one. It's here small. Actually, we would need, if we had rudder trim here, we could change it, but we don't. So we can manually do that. Slightly right rudder. Get that. Coordinated. Okay, engine failures in flight. That's all the one they keep referring to. Engines fail during flight. Rudder maintain directional control. Airspeed as required. Above 76 knots with flaps up and 73 knots with flaps in approach. Operative engine increase power up to 92% load or maximum 2100 RPM. Establish minimum zero slide slip and inoperative engine securing procedure. Land as soon as possible and land with one engine inoperative procedure is in effect, and flight with one engine inoperative procedure is flight during the transition. Sorry, I'm back. Apparently my son didn't press any buttons, but it stopped updating. So he didn't press the red button. He didn't press any button. But I think he pressed the red button. Okay. Landing with one engine in operative procedure. Preparation for emergency landing. Adjustable backrest must be fixed in upright position. So adjustable backrest, check. Safety harness, check and fasten and tighten. Landing light as required. Gear warning horn check function. So it's down here, I think, somewhere. It's not simulated. On the operative engine, fuel pump remaining on. We don't have fuel pump. Fuel selector check on. So if you had a right engine failure, we check that left engine fuel is on. if cross feed is necessary with pumps on inoperative engine. So check secured in accordance with the engine securing feathering procedure. Not before certain of making fuel. Airspeed as required for operating landing gear. Landing gear down, check 3 greens. Airspeed is 188, so that's no problem. Trim as required, airspeed as reduced as required, flaps as required. Final approach speed, if you're above 1900 kilos, we'll do 92 knots for flaps up, 88 knots for flaps approach, and 86 knots for flaps landing. If below 1900, we'll do 86 knots for flaps up, 84 knots for flaps approach, and 84 knots for flaps landing. So there's slight difference there. For instance, today we're below 1900, so we'll do 86 flaps up, 84 flaps approach, and 84 flaps landing. Warning: one engine inoperative approach for landing with flap settings of more than flaps up are not recommended unless the safe landing is assured, making the field. High flap settings increase the loss of altitude during the transition to one engine inoperative go-around bolt landing. So, power level as required, trim as required. Note that the higher approach speed results in a slightly longer landing distance during flare. And in conditions such as strong wind, danger of wind shear or turbulence, a higher approach speed should be selected. Perform normal touchdown and decelerate on the ground. Go around bolt landing with one engine inoperative. Go around bolt landing is not recommended to be initiated below the minimum of 800 feet above the ground, so 800 feet, remember that. The performance data with one engine operative flaps, gear up, one engine operative climb performance is in the performance section. Under certain combinations of ambient conditions such as turbulence, crosswind, wind shear, as well as bicycle, the resulting climb performance may nevertheless be insufficient for successful ground bolt landing. Procedure is to go power level max, rudder maintain directional control, airspeed 85 knots indicated, landing gear up and retract, and flaps up. Establishment is a slide slip, and go to section for flight with one engine inoperative. If positive rate of climb cannot be established, land has to clear of obstacles. If time allows, the steps can reduce the risk of fire in the event of collision. That's engine master off, both. Fuel selector both off, and flaps approach or landing. If landing is performed off airfield, depending on the surface condition, may be beneficial to land with the gear up to avoid excessive damage to the airplane. Note that the energy absorbing function of the landing gear is lost in such case. Extending gear and extending the flaps to landing will increase drag and incur this higher sink rate. Only when landing area can be reached safely, land with the flaps landing in is advisable. And this is speed, which is the same as before. Landing gear down, 3 greens, electrical master off, touchdown, lowest practical speed. Landing gear retracted, landing gear up, touchdown, lowest practical speed. Immediately after touchdown, electrical master off. If the electrical master is switched off before touchdown, then the landing gear will extend slowly. Good to know. Flight with one engine inoperative. Even if a positive flight performance can be established, with one engine inoperative, land as soon as possible at the next suitable airfield. Airspeed above 76 knots, flaps up, 73 flaps approach, 73 knots. Remaining engine, monitor engine instrument continuously. Fuel quantity, monitor continuously. Fuel pump, left, right, we don't have to install. Fuel selector, remaining engine sets crossfeed or on as keep fuel cutter laterally balanced, so you keep an eye on those. Switching on fuel pump, that's it. And land as soon as possible in accordance with landing with one engine inoperative checklist. So I'll be right back. I'll have to help my son a bit. Okay, now my son has Xbox, Minecraft, so. Engines out landing. Engines master both off. Alternator switch both off. Fuel pumps off. Fuel selector off, both off. Avionics master off. Safety harness check. Flaps approach landing. On the same speed as before. If landing, with landing extended, landing gear down 3 greens. Power level both idle, electrical master off. Touchdown, lowest practical speed. If landing gear with gear retracted, landing gear up. Power levels both idle, touchdown, lowest practical speed. Immediately after touchdown, electrical master. So that's a slight difference there between if they have gear up or down. Landing gear system failure. The landing gear unsafe warning light illuminates if the landing gear is neither in the final up or down lock position. Illumination of this light therefore normal during transition. If the light remains on for longer than 20 seconds during landing gear retraction extension, airspeed check below 152 knots, gear selector recycle if continued illumination occurs. If the landing gear cannot be extended to the down lock position, the red light not extinguished, continue with manual extension of landing gear. And that goes like this. Speed below 152 knots, gear indicator lights test push button, electrical master check on, so push, check on, bus voltage check in the normal range, circuit breaker check and reset if necessary, and manual gear extension is gear selected select down, manual extension handle pulled out, and that takes a bit of time to lower. It's gravity lowered. Gear indication light check green, 3 greens, and then we can land. If that's not possible, we'll do landing with gear up procedure. Landing with the gear up procedure is approach with power at normal approach to airspeed flap setting, power level idle just before touchdown. At the time, and if the situation allows, following steps can be done to reduce the risk of fire. Engine master both off, engine fuel selector both off, and touchdown, contact surface with minimum airspeed, on the ground maintain directional control, immediately after touchdown, electrical master. So you see this pattern, if we have no gear, we use the electrical, turn it off after touchdown. If we have a gear, we can turn it off before. Landing procedures with defective engine, take tire on main landing gear. Land the plane at the edge of the runway that is located on the side of the intact tire. So if we select our right tire is fault, we'll land to the left side. Land with one wing low, the wing on the side of the intact tire should be low. So we'll land with the left hand tire low on the left hand side of the runway in this case. And directional control should be maintained using rudder. Landing with defective brakes. Consider greater rolling distance, safety harness check on, fastened. If sufficient time is allowed, engine master both off, fuel selector both off, electrical master off. Let's see how much time we have. I was thinking about doing a 1 engine landing, 9 minutes. So we'll do a 1 engine landing to finish this off. Failure in electrical system. Complete failure of electrical system. Emergency switch on. Floodlight is necessary on. Power set based on level position and engine noise. Prepare landing for flaps in a given position. So read that. High current checklist. If you remember that, high current is indicated on G1000. Circuit breakers check. Reduce electrical load to minimum required for continued safe flight. Landed near a suitable airfield. Starter malfunction. Power level on affected engine to idle, engine master affected engine off, electrical master off. Trim into flight preparation. Smoke and fire, also good. The cabin hand fire extinguisher is located in the inside plane, passenger compartment on the right hand side of the cabin floor behind the co-pilot seat, so it's located down here somewhere. I don't think that's modeled here, but it is. We'll start our descent actually. 2,500 feet will be sufficient. Just check the weather. So 2992, which is set. So smoke and fire. If there's engine fire on ground, engine master both off, fuel selectors off, electrical master off. After standstill, canopy open and plane evacuate immediately. Engine fire during takeoff, cabin heat and defrost off. There we go. So if it's like this, we'll go like this. Proceed according to engine failure during takeoff. Checklist. Engine fire in flight. Cabin heat defrost off. Proceed according to engine failures in flight and engine secure failure procedure. Fair. Come on. Electrical fire on ground. Electrical master off. Power level both idle. Engine master both off. Fuel selectors both off. And when the engine has stopped, canopy open and airplane evacuate immediately. Exactly. Lossnade. Electrical fire in flight. Emergency switch on. Avionics master off. Electrical master off. Cabin heat defrost off. Sorry? Jag tar det. Jag förstår inte.
Jag vill också spela.
Ja, men ta nu andra kontrollen och så trycker du igång den. Då kan du spela. Jag kommer. So switching off the electrical master will lead to total failure of electronics. So that's good to remember. But if you have electrical fire, we don't really care about that, do we? Other emergencies: suspicion of carbon monoxide contamination in cabin. Carbon monoxide is a gas which develops when cabin heat defrost off, ventilation open, emergency windows open. For the canopy on latch. Maximum demonstrated airspeed for emergency opening of front company in flight is 117 knots. Do not exceed 117 knots. Locked doors, airspeed reduce immediately. Canopy check visually if closed. Rear passenger door check visually if closed. Front passenger door, baggage door check visually if closed. Canopy locked, airspeed below 140 knots. Landed next suitable airfield. Rear door, passenger door unlocked. Airspeed 140. Landed next suitable airfield. Do not try to lock the passenger door in flight. Safety light may disengage and door opens. Usually this results in separation of door from the airplane, and that would be bad. Really bad. Front baggage door open, airspeed reduced as possible, land at next suitable airfield. So we see the pattern here. Land the plane. There was some stuff about the propeller unintentional flight into ice, and that could be possible. Leave the icing area as soon as possible. Pitot heat on, cabin heat and defrost on, power level increase power in order to prevent ice buildup. Propellers alternate air open, emergency windows open if required. Ice buildup and course styling speed 80 advised that emergency expected. So fuel supply failure. Oh, suddenly we can see anything. Go lower. Sorry, I flew into clouds. Fuel supply failure, cross feed, fuel cycle cross feed affected engine, fuel quantity monitor, fuel pump affected. I don't have that. If fuel supply failure remains, fuel selector on, fuel pump unaffected on, fuel quantity monitor. So basically, emergency descent is good. Flaps up, gear down, power level idle, airspeed as required. Max structural cruising speed is 151 knots, and never exceed speed is there is 188 knots. So if we're below 8, like here we're below 88, 188, we can just the gear down and descend quite fast, usually now. Remember the airspeed for flaps is 133 and 1113 in this one. And the airbus gets 137 and 111. So if you have a failure of the autopilot system, airplane control stick grasps firmly, autopilot disconnect switch to press and hold, trim, retrim, activate manually as required, autopilot circuit breaker pull, and autopilot disconnect switch release. And that was the emergency procedures. I'm just gonna go and check on my daughter, and then I'm gonna do a 1-engine landing. Be right back. Okay, so 1-engine proceed. So we'll shut down our right engine like so. So we'll start. Notice that I will start turning. So we'll go with feathering procedure. Off, off, off. That's good. And that should be the idle, but we can't do that because we only have one of these. So we'll increase speed slightly on the other one. So 18, good speed. So and then we'll go to our procedures, which is emergency procedures. Engine trouble is securing. First, engine securing checklist. So there's the airfield. We'll go keep it in autopilot just to ease our workload. Heading. So, engine securing checklist. Affected engine item verified. Right side. Engine master affected engine off. Alternator affected engine off. Fuel pump you don't have any installed. Fuel tank affected engine off. So that's here. Sorry. So a good thing with checklist. So that's the checklist. So. Engine failures in flight, rudder maintaining directional control, minimum airspeed is 85 knots, there's no problem. Operative engine increased power as required, established by inoperative engine securing, that's done. And then we'll go landing with one engine inoperative, adjust backrest, safety harness check, landing like as required, we'll put that on. Notice ATC, which done that. Gear 101 check function. No fuel tabs, fuel sector, check on the non-affected engine, check on. So we don't have a fuel imbalance as of yet, not very big anyway. We can have up to 5 gallons and it's almost the same, so it's not a problem for landing. Inoperative engine, which is the right hand side engine, is secured according with the securing procedure. Before making the airfill, we'll do airspeed as required, landing gear down, check screens, trim as required, airspeed as required, flap as required, and we are well below 1900 kilos, so our approach speed will be 86 flaps up, 84 flaps approach, and 84 flaps landing, so minimum 84 knots for landing. And then there's nothing else there. So '86, '84, and '84 is speeds to remember. So we'll go on land now. Looks kind of cool. I actually remember looking at a video of a pilot talking about her multi-engine training, and she's like, I spent most of the time flying on one engine. Hardly ever flew on 2 engines, just flew on 1 engine. So that's was her idea of the multi-engine training, was to fly it. The clouds are getting lower. Was to fly it on 1 engine, basically. Got ILS tuned so we can get it out on the pilot here. Start our descent and turning on the final. So that was her, and she did. The runway in sight. Let's start a small descent and keep us on the glide slope. So when we show we can make it, we'll put gear down and flaps down. We can, so we'll continue this approach pretty far onwards before we actually get anything out. My son is going ballistic there in the background, I don't know why. Something with Minecraft, probably. So I'm not the best pilot here. Slightly high, but I guess high is better. Being slightly high is better than being slightly low. So we can give it an okay. So keep it slightly longer before getting everything out. So about 800, below 800, above 800 feet if we're gonna go do a go around. 85 knots then. So gear down, flaps set, approach, and landing. So gear down, 3 greens, flaps set, landing, and 90.
500.
Check. So as soon as you, we don't have a lot of power, but when you do pull the engine, power on the affected engine,
500.
we will get a yaw, of course, back straight flight. So now we're pretty much committed. We're about 500 feet.
500.
Keep getting 500 message. Oh, pretty good. We have quite a long runway here, so it's not a problem. As I pull the power, it swerved to the left because then I had no power on that side, and I simply just set the rudders in neutral. So that was it. 1 engine landing. Pretty simple. I hope you enjoyed this episode of emergency procedures on the DA-42 Twin Star. Just for flight simulator purpose, of course. But that's pretty much it. For this series, I'm going to do some more procedural series on other aircraft. So see you then on that one. I'm Andy, and if you like this channel, please subscribe. If you like this episode, please hit the like button, leave a comment, or share. I'm going to see if I can manage to taxi into the aircraft on one engine. So have a great day. See you soon. Take care. Bye bye.